Hey guys, this is Jocelyn from Fantasia Elegance. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this simple wire wrapped ring. And this style is very nice for beginners because it's of course easy to make, and also it is a fully adjustable ring, so you don't have to worry quite as much about getting the sizing perfectly right. So here's the finished product that we'll be making. And to make this ring we're going to need a couple items. For wire, you're going to want both 24 and 18 gauge, and I'll be using sterling silver, round dead soft from Rio Grande if you're curious. I would recommend having a solid or filled wire of some type, as we will be hammering the ring, so copper or brass would also work well, or silver filled wire in addition to sterling. For tools, you'll be wanting round and chain nose pliers, flush cutters, and you'll also be wanting some stones. You'll want a 6mm and 4mm, and I will be using Swarovski crystal bicones in the colors Fire Opal and Crystal. And you'll also want to have a steel bench block and hammer, jeweler's hammer, and ideally a ring mandrel. If you don't have one, that's okay. You can just use any round object that approximates the size that you want your ring to be. So to get started, we're going to go ahead and cut our length of 18 gauge wire. And for this ring, I'm going to be making an approximately size 9 ring. And for that size, you're going to want about 5.9 inches of wire. If you're making your ring larger or smaller, you'll need to adjust accordingly. As always, I do recommend starting out with a cheaper wire, like copper, when you're first making a design. And also if you're trying to resize your ring, that will allow you to play with things and find the proper amount of wire to use without spending a lot on expensive wire. So I'm going to make a about 5.9 inch piece of wire here. There we go. And I'll just go ahead and make this end flush as well. And for your 24 gauge wire, if I can find the end of it here, we're going to want one piece that is 1 inch, and I'm just cleaning the wire here, of course. You're going to want a 1 inch piece and a 1 1/4 inch piece. And we'll just set those to the side for now. Taking our 5.9 inch piece, or longer or shorter depending on what ring size you're making, again this is ideal for a US size 9, we're going to very simply bend this in half, making sure that you keep both ends flush with each other. And then I'm going to start narrowing down this end here. And you want to wind up with a gentle curve that will accommodate your 6mm bead, as you can see here. To accomplish that, you'll need to take your round nose pliers and help shape this so that you have a smooth curve, a little more than 6mm wide, just like so. And the shape you're going to want to make is to have this curve and then these two pieces going parallel to each other and straight. So I'm just going to bend them each out ever so slightly. So that they are more straight and parallel with each other. And you can squeeze right here below where your 6mm bead is going to be going, putting in a curve, just like so. And let me make that a little bit wider. Okay, so you can see we have sort of a teardrop shape here. And you want to just go ahead and make sure that your bead that you're using is going to fit nicely in that space. I think mine needs to be a little bit wider, perhaps. And of course your 4mm bead is going to go below your 6mm one, right there, as you can see in our finished one here. And once you're happy with your shape at this end, we're going to go to our two tail ends here, and we're going to make each one curve out. We're going to make a closed loop using our round nose pliers. And as always, I have put the brands of the tools I'm using in the description section below. Oops. And you do want to make sure that both of these loops are the same size as each other. And you also want to make sure that they're both the same length as each other. You can see this one wound up a little bit longer. So I'm going to see if I can adjust that without having to cut it. You can see that looks somewhat better. And you do want these to flare out ever so slightly at the end right here. So I'm just going to put a very slight little bend in it, going outwards, just like that. And you can see that's going to wind up being this portion of the ring when we're finished. Once you're happy with your shape here, we're going to go ahead and hammer this out. And you can do some more adjusting after you hammer it as well, but it will become stiffer and a little bit harder to work with after you hammer it. So it's best to get the best possible general shape first before hammering. Okay, so I am happy with this now. Let me pull out my steel bench block. Now to hammer this, I'm going to start out with the flat side of my hammer. And I'm just going to flatten out the entire surface. Alright, so once you have your entire surface flattened out somewhat, you're going to switch to the rounded side of the hammer. And I'm just going to repeat, putting in the dappled texture over the whole surface. Okay, so you can see now that we have this very pretty dappled texture. However, our piece has become somewhat deformed from the hammering, so we're going to very simply straighten everything back out. And you may need to use your chain nose pliers to help out with this. And if your loops up here opened up slightly, you can just snug them on up with your chain nose pliers, just like so. And let me go ahead and remove the bench block. So at this point we're going to go ahead and form our ring shape. I'll be using a ring mandrel. Of course, again, you can just use any round object that is approximately the size that you want your ring to be. And what I'm going to do, I'm going for a size 9 ring. I'm actually going to start a little bit lower, maybe around size 7. If I can get this in frame, that would be better. And just go ahead and wrap it around. There we are. And I do like to do a few adjustments to the shape off of the ring mandrel. So I'm just going to put in a little bit more of a curve right here using my chain nose pliers. And I'm shaping it so that these two looped ends are almost touching our bend right here. Okay, so I've done some tweaking. I'm just going to double check that it's approximately the size I want, which it is. And now we're going to add our stones on. So I'm going to retrieve those two pieces we cut earlier, the 1 inch and 1 1/4 inch pieces of 24 gauge, and our two Swarovski crystals. I'm going to start out with the longer piece of wire and our 6mm crystal. And we're just going to place it into our ring with equal lengths of wire on each side, and using chain nose pliers, I'm going to tightly wrap this around the form of the ring. Making sure that it's very tightly snugged down. There we go, and of course the ends of those wires we're just going to trim off. I like to make sure that it's ending on the side of the ring so that it doesn't scratch your finger at all. And I'm just going to snug that down with my chain nose pliers. And for the 4mm crystal, we're going to do the same thing, putting it right below our 6mm crystal. And I think I'm actually going to adjust this a little bit more by closing up this gap ever so slightly. Okay, now I'm ready to put on this 4mm crystal. So as before, we're going to line it up right here and holding it down so that the two ends of the wires are roughly equal on each side. Let me try zooming in a little bit here. We're going to, as before, wrap these ends tightly around the form of our ring. Okay, so now I'm just making sure that all these wraps are nice and snug as we can make them. And that the two crystals are positioned properly above each other. There we go. Let's go ahead and try this on. So as you can see, this is a very nice style because not only can you customize the colors quite easily, it is a very nicely adjustable ring, which gives you a lot of leeway when making it. You don't have to worry quite as much about getting the sizing just right. And hopefully it was easy to follow along with this tutorial and you have success making this ring. As always, thank you very much for watching. If you would, take a few moments to check out my Etsy shop and Facebook page. Links are in the description below. And if you would like, you can leave a comment below telling me how you found this tutorial and ideas for future videos you might like to see. So thanks for watching and happy crafting!